letter found in a bread drawer, Marseille preface, fragments 1, 2, and 3. Editor's preface. The document you are about to read was discovered on the morning of March 17, 2024, in the third drawer of a wooden armoire at 14 Rue des Petites Maries in Marseille's Panier district. The flat belonged to a baker who had died 3 weeks prior. Her name was, though I have been asked by whom, I cannot say to obscure it. When the landlord opened the bread drawer to clear the apartment, he found it sealed with wax the color of old blood. Inside, a still warm baguette, though the oven had been cold for weeks. Beneath the bread, written on butcher paper in what appeared to be a mixture of flour, seawater, and something darker, was the first fragment of what follows. I am not a religious man. I edit technical manuals for marine equipment, but I have spent the last 6 months following the trail of breadcrumbs, if you'll forgive the phrase, that this confession scattered across 3 countries and 8 languages. What I found in monasteries, psychiatric wards, coastal villages, and the ruins of bombed chapels has convinced me of one thing. Some truths are too hungry to stay buried. Several names have been deliberately erased. This was not my choice. The bread is still in my freezer. It has not aged a single day. MV, Marseille, September 2024. Fragment 1, The Baker's Hand. They say a baker's hands tell stories. Mine tell lies. Every morning for 37 years, I woke at 3 a.m. to knead dough for the people of this neighborhood. My hands learned the language of yeast and salt, the grammar of gluten. They learned to read the weather in the way dough rose, to predict rain by how the crust crackled. These hands fed 3 generations of families. They made communion wafers for Father Dominique. They shaped birthday cakes for children whose grandparents I had fed as children themselves. But these hands also wrote a letter they do not remember writing. It appeared 6 months before I died. Yes, I know how this sounds in the drawer where I kept the morning's first baguettes. The paper was old. The ink was my blood. I checked. It matched a sample from my last doctor's visit. And the handwriting was mine from 40 years ago, before arthritis bent my fingers into their current quotation marks. The letter was addressed to someone whose name I had spent 4 decades trying to forget. It said, "The bread remembers. Tell them before the tide comes in." I burned it immediately. It reappeared the next morning, unburned in the same drawer. I burned it 12 more times. On the 13th morning, there were 2 letters. Fragment 2, the archivist's record translated from Italian, from the private journals of Sister Maria Cristofori, Monastery of Santa Chiara, Assisi, date August 3, 1987. Today, a woman arrived at our gates carrying a wooden box. She would not give her name. She said only that she was a baker from France and that she had fed the wrong hunger. The box contained 43 pieces of bread, each wrapped in paper bearing a single word. When arranged in order, and it took us 3 days to find the sequence, They formed a confession of something I still cannot bring myself to name fully here. In the year 1944, this woman, then a girl of 15, worked in her mother's bakery in Marseille. The Germans had occupied the city. Food was scarce. People were starving. And one night, a man came to the back door of the bakery with an offer: flour, sugar, butter, all the ingredients they needed in exchange for baking a single special loaf each week. The man wore a priest's collar, but smelled of low tide and rust. The girl's mother refused. But the girl, seeing her neighbor's children with swollen bellies and hollow eyes, said yes. The first loaf was simple: white flour, water, salt, yeast. The man took it without a word and left a sack of ingredients on the doorstep. The next morning, the Germans announced that a resistance cell had been discovered and executed 12 men and 3 women in a building on Rue Caisserie. The girl didn't make the connection. Not then. The second week, the man asked for a braided loaf. 6 strands. The pattern was specific. He drew it on paper, over, under, over, under, over, under, then back again, like a spell. 6 families disappeared that week. The Cohens, the Martinellis, the Dubois clan from the harbor. By the 3rd week, the girl understood. But her neighbors were no longer starving. The bakery thrived. Her mother asked no questions about the sudden abundance. The woman told me she baked those loaves for 8 months. Through the liberation, through the celebrations, through the day her mother died of pneumonia and whispered, "I always knew, but we were so hungry." She never saw the man again. But every loaf she baked afterward, every birthday cake, every communion wafer, every baguette carried a weight she could not name. She felt the people she had fed, unknowingly, with collaboration and silence. The bread remembers, she told me. It remembers everyone who ate it, everyone who trusted me. I took her confession. I gave her penance, though what penance could suffice. I kept the box of bread words in our archive, as she requested. I was to open it only if someone came asking for her by name. No one ever did, until last month, when a man appeared at our gates. He smelled of low tide and rust. He wore no collar, but his eyes were older than the monastery walls. He asked for the box. I told him it had been destroyed. He smiled, if you could call it that, and said, "Then she's ready." The next morning, all 43 pieces of bread were gone from our archive. In their place, a single baguette, still warm, wrapped in paper that read, "The hunger does not forgive. It only waits." Note from MV. I found Sister Cristofori in a care facility outside Perugia. She is 93 and blind, but when I mentioned the baker from Marseille, she wept and grabbed my hand. She said, "Tell her I lied. I gave him the box. I gave him everything. I was so afraid." I asked her what she was afraid of. She said, "Going hungry." Sister Cristofori died 4 days after our conversation. The nurses said she hadn't eaten in a week. Fragment 3, the psychiatrist's notes, patient file, facility, Hôpital Sainte Marguerite, Marseille, attending Dr. Léon Beaufort. Dates: November 1991, February 1992. Patient presented with acute insomnia, auditory hallucinations, and compulsive hand washing. Reports hearing the dough scream and feeling fingerprints that aren't mine on the flour sacks. She insists that her bakery is feeding something that shouldn't be fed. Session 1, Nov 14, 1991. Patient tearful, agitated. Describes recurring dream of kneading dough that bleeds. In dream, she is 15 again, and her mother is watching from the corner of the bakery, covered in seawater. Mother says, "The tide is coming." Patient wakes to find flour handprints on her bedroom walls, though she lives alone. Session 4, Deck 2, 1991. Patient brought bread to session. Insisted I eat it. When I declined, she became hysterical. "You have to eat it. Someone has to eat it, or it doesn't count." Security was called. Patient sedated. Session 7, Deck 30, 1991. Significant progress. Patient calmer. Reports that the voice in the dough has stopped. She says she's made peace with her past. She wants to return to work. Against my better judgment, I recommended release. Session 8, Jan 15, 1992. Emergency session. Patient appeared at facility at 2 a.m., covered in flour. She had been baking non-stop for 18 hours. Her apartment was filled with hundreds of identical baguettes, each with a name carved into the crust. Names of people I recognized from the war, resistance members, deportees, collaborators. All dead. "They're hungry," she said. "They've always been hungry. And I fed the wrong one." I asked her what she meant. She handed me a piece of paper, the same butcher paper I would later see in her bread drawer, with a single sentence. "The bread remembers, but the baker must forget." She was readmitted. I recommended long-term care. Final note, Feb 28, 1992. Patient discharged herself against medical advice. Left no forwarding address. In her room, we found one baguette on the bed, still warm. I made the mistake of tasting it. I have not been hungry since. Note from MV. Dr. Beaufort died in 1998 of starvation, despite eating normally. The autopsy found his digestive system intact, but his stomach completely empty, as if it had forgotten how to hold food. I found these notes in a box marked, "Do not open," in the hospital's closed records. Someone had tried to burn them. The edges were charred, but the text intact.